Hi everyone, welcome to Celestial. Welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be talking about what it means to have Sun in the 7th house of your Navamsa, or otherwise known as the D9 chart. Now there usually are many different debates about what the 7th house in the Navamsa chart means, or even what all the houses in the Navamsa chart mean. I will make a video breaking down each house and its significance at a later date. But for today's video, I'm just going to touch on what the 7th house of the Navamsa D9 chart means according to me and according to everyone at Celestial. So just a summary, the Navamsa D9 chart is kind of a chart that looks into your 7th house related matters, especially your spouse or your marriage. Now, in modern day times, a lot of people opt for not getting married and just staying in a live-in relationship or having a long-term partnership, and this would also apply to you as well. Now, the 7th house in the Navamsa chart can show you what your spouse looks like and their characteristics, the kind of themes present in your marriage or long-term commitment. And again, this does apply for you if you choose to not get married and just want to have a long-term commitment. For the sake of this video, I'll just be saying spouse and marriage, but this can of course apply to your live-in relationship and your long-term partner as well. Now, as many of you know, some of the rules, laws, or teachings of everyone at Celestial, when we get into the physical characteristics of the spouse, we never talk about the color of the individual's skin. This is something that's very important to me, and I just want to apologize in advance because I understand in certain cultures or communities where certain individuals do seek out to know this kind of information, such as the color of their long-term partner's skin. But just due to our beliefs and my beliefs around how sensitive this topic is and how so many individuals in the world face discrimination, pain, suffering, grief, because of something that they can't control, such as the color of their skin, it is not something that we talk about at Celestial, nor is it something that we will ever get into. I do apologize if that is what you're seeking clarity on or information on. Unfortunately, you won't be getting that answer or clarity from anyone at Celestial. I do apologize in advance, but we are quite firm on this, so I did just want to give that disclaimer as well. Now, moving forward, again with the 7th house themes in the Navamsa chart, this is going to show you what other people also think of your marriage partner or your relationship or marriage in general. Now, the 8th house, and I don't feel like many people get into this, the 8th house shows you what your marriage or relationship or your bonding with your partner is actually like, versus the 7th house shows you what other people see in it, because, traditionally the 7th house is the marketplace. It's a very public house. 7th house can also show you fame, what other people think of you. It's the yin and yang energy between the ascendant and descendant, and I'll break all of this down as well. Sorry about the horns in the back. It's always so interesting. Anytime I'm making a video, there are horns or something going on. But otherwise, if I'm just walking around or in this space, there's never any sound happening. So I just think it's interesting that it happens specifically when I'm making a video. Anyway, the 7th house, as I was saying, is going to show you what other people think of your spouse or long-term partner, and more specifically of your marriage. So it's going to show you the characteristics of your spouse or long-term partner that are most visible to other people. And it doesn't necessarily mean that this is who your partner is going to be like with you. It's just that these might be the traits or qualities that your partner has that other people see very dominantly in them or in your marriage. But for example, you could have Saturn in the 7th house of your Navamsa chart or Mars in the 7th house of your Navamsa chart. And these two planets are traditionally very difficult to have in the 7th house. So this could mean that the public sees your partner as a very cold or aloof person, or a very dominant or aggressive person. Now, of course, you'd have to look at the sign both of them would be sitting in. But if your 8th house has Venus in it or has the moon in it, and depending on how they're placed, it could mean that your spouse, behind closed doors or on a very sacred level, your relationship is very sweet. Your partner is very loving to you, very kind to you, supportive, nurturing. It's just that that's reserved strictly for you because it's a very intimate house. So oftentimes it's very interesting when I look at the charts of celebrities or public figures, I see their 7th house, having a lot of, as they say, malefics or difficult energy. but they always talk so fondly of their spouse, that my partner is very loving or very caring and supportive, but their seventh house has a lot of difficult energy, and people never understand, and they feel like this person's spouse is very aggressive or cold or not friendly. And this lady always says, or other women always say, that he's actually very sweet or very kind. It's just that that's, I guess, more reserved for me and not something that's so visible to other people. Now, that doesn't mean that if you don't have a planet in the 8th house and you have difficult energy in the 7th house, that your partner is going to be cruel to you or rude to you or not very loving. You have to look at the ruler of the 7th house as well, especially in your Navamsa, and look at what it's doing. A prime example that I have in my head right now is Nick Jonas and Priyanka Chopra. I'm very excited to actually break down celebrity synastry. I can't wait to get to those videos because it's going to be very interesting, and I'll show you what I look at, and I can help you look at things as well. But in his Navamsa chart, I'm very, very confident that he has Saturn and Pluto in his 7th house in Gemini, his Navamsa chart specifically. And that means his 8th house is ruled by Cancer, and I don't think he has anything in the 8th house. I'm 90% sure he didn't, but for example, if you look at what I just said, his 7th house having Saturn and Pluto, and that being Priyanka, I mean, minus the obvious age difference, which is like 10 plus years, she's older than him. He also has Saturn Bhav Gotama, which means Saturn is sitting in the 7th house, and his D1 and D9 chart makes it very, very strong and has a very strong say on his partner. But he also has Pluto in the 7th house, and I'm not going to get into what that means because that's going to be a little bit scandalous with this celebrity example. But naturally it means that something about the spouse is hidden from you, or they've gone through a lot of difficulties in their life, they've had a lot of deaths and rebirths in their life. And Saturn being somebody who has a reputation, has somebody who's well known, it's in Gemini, meaning media, communications. Priyanka is a Mercury dominant individual. She has a Gemini stellium, she has a Virgo stellium, both ruled by Mercury. Her Atma Karaka is conjunct Saturn, and so on. So there's a lot of similarities. Now, again, with the 7th house example, Saturn and Pluto in the 7th, a lot of people very much do, compare his marriage to that kind of energy, that they talk a lot about the age difference. They talk a lot about Priyanka allegedly hiding things from him and so on. But behind closed doors, with the Cancer moon-like energy, they're very, very sweet. And whenever they talk about each other, it's always so loving and nurturing. There's a big emphasis on family and motherhood and so on. So that's an example that came to my head. I will break down their chart in more detail, but I just wanted to touch on that based off of what I said before this example. So I hope that helps. With that being said, for this video, having Sun in the 7th house of your Navamsa chart, you have to look at the sign, you have to look at aspects, you have to look at transits, you have to look if there's a planet sitting with the sun, if they're conjunct or if they're just in the same house. You have to look at the Dara Karaka, you have to look at Venus, you have to look at the 7th house in the D1 Lagna chart. There's a lot of things to look at, so this is just Sun in the 7th house of the Navamsa chart. Now, having Sun in the 7th house of your Navamsa chart is not a very easy placement to have. The sun naturally is a very bright light, as I was saying in Sun Atma Karaka video, that people who are sun dominant can have a lot of difficulty with relationships. It's very difficult to get close to the sun. I mean, for humans, it's very difficult for us to look at the sun with our naked eye or even with sunglasses for very long. It's very painful. It's very blinding. Now, when you take that energy and you bring it to the 7th house related matters, it can indicate a lot of trouble getting close to the spouse initially, or this can be somebody who is either really well known or has a reputation, or somebody who is really focused on at least gathering, power or status or authority in some way in this life. It can mean that you seek out somebody who has a lot of authority, or somebody who's famous or well known or has a good reputation. Or it can mean that your partner, the person that you end up with, will want that from your relationship. So it could be somebody who wants to be like power couple with you, or somebody who wants to get fame and attention and reputation through you and through the marriage as well. Now, depending on the sign the sun is in and everything else in the chart, it could mean somebody who wants to shine at any cost, even if that means putting you to the side. Or it could be somebody who might want you to take a seat or take a few steps back and let them shine in the marriage or relationship or through other people. Now, in a more positive light, depending on the sign that it's in, it could mean somebody who's very, very supportive of your spiritual journey, somebody who really gives you a lot of strength and hope and energy, somebody who's like a bright light to you, a very warm, sunny kind of a person. This could be somebody who radiates positive light, energy, happiness, somebody who really likes to see other people shine as well, and someone who's a really, really wonderful leader. Having sun in the 7th house of the Navamsa chart can mean that your relationship publicly looks very good, or people can see your relationship or marriage having a lot of strength, because sun also shows strength in a chart. So when other people look at your marriage or look at your partner, they can see you as a very strong unit, a very powerful unit. You can also have a very inspirational marriage or relationship as well. People can, again, see you as the power couple or power goals or couple goals or whatever they call it nowadays. Sun in the 7th house of the Navamsa chart usually means that the partner, the long-term partner, has confidence. They could have a lot of pride. They could be really focused on growth in life, especially their own, and even more so the growth of your relationship as well. Now, having sun in the 7th house also means the father figure or father-like figure has a say in the marriage or long-term relationship somehow. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that the father or father-like figure is going to pick out your long-term partner, though it can indicate that depending on what culture you're from and whatever your beliefs are, because that's always important to look at in astrology. And I feel like not enough people do that. Just like astrology changes and certain definitions change if you are a female, feminine energy versus male, the same thing applies for culture in astrology as well. So you have to take a look at that. So in certain cultures, if you have your sun in the 7th house of your Navamsa, it could very well mean that your father or father-like figure decides who you marry. In other cultures where maybe that is not a tradition or it's not custom, it can mean that you end up with somebody who is a lot like your father or a father-like figure, or who is in other ways an authority in the marriage, and especially publicly. Now, if your sun in the 7th house of your Navamsa chart is having a lot of difficult aspects or just a lot of difficult energy in general, it can point to a separation or a divorce as well. And I'm sorry to share that information. I just want to be very transparent and honest. I mean, you would have to also look at the 8th house and 6th house and your Dharkarka and other things as well. This is just specifically sun in the 7th house of the Navamsa, if it is not placed so well. This could mean that your long-term partner insists and even demands to lead, and they very much could be a my way or a highway kind of a person. If there are difficult aspects to the sun in the 7th house of your Navamsa or D9 chart, it could mean that your spouse has conditions, rules, or laws or expectations that even if you're very unhappy in the marriage or relationship, let's say, God forbid, your marriage or relationship is really, really struggling and you're kind of deciding if you want to remain in it or not, it could mean that despite those difficulties and what you truly feel, your spouse or long-term partner has an expectation that you keep up the facade or in other ways show an image that everything is fine in the marriage and relationship to other people. Sorry about those car revving their engines in the back. Again, I'm not sure why that happens. It only ever happens when I'm recording a video. I do these in my office, or I guess now it's more like a studio, so I don't know why this always happens, but I apologize for the background noise. So as I was saying, if your sun is severely afflicted in the 7th house, it could be somebody who wants and demands and maybe even forces you to put up a front or put on a show that everything is okay in the marriage, that you're happy and that you enjoy living this life, again, depending on the rest of your chart. For example, if you have a very Capricorn-like Navamsa or your general chart, having sun in the 7th house is going to bring more difficulty. Versus if you have more Aries position, Sagittarius, Leo, air energy, having sun in the 7th house, you could actually enjoy it more in the partner. So you'd have to look at the whole picture. It could mean that your long-term partner or your spouse provides you a very luxurious life. Now, depending on the rest of your chart, your moon placement, Venus, what you seek, what you desire, Either you could really enjoy this. Some people really enjoy being in a marriage that is for status and for image and for show, where on the inner side there's not a lot of intimacy or romantic connection, but you have status and you have a luxurious life. So if that is what your chart is pointing to, or if that is what you prefer in this life, then you could really enjoy this. It could mean that your spouse or long-term partner gives you a lot of luxury or lets you live a very high status life, if that's what you're seeking. If that's not what you're seeking and you rather have an emotional connection, or your chart's pointing to you wanting to have depth and intimacy, then having Sun in the 7th house could be a very difficult energy for you to navigate, because it could mean that your spouse is there for you for show if it makes the marriage look good or makes them look good, but they might not be there for you where it really matters for you. So you'd have to look at the whole energy as well. Your spouse's or long-term partner's reputation and the reputation of the marriage is going to matter significantly for them, and perhaps even for you, or it might be something that you are forced to deal with or take into consideration, especially as the commitment goes on later on in life. Now, when I talk about the quote negative parts of Sun in the 7th house of Navamsa, some people really like that. Again, negative, positive, it has different meanings and definitions for different people. So if I'm saying that a negative aspect could be your partner is very controlling, but you're somebody that really likes that and you don't see it as a negative, then you would have to consider it that way as well. So again, Sun in the 7th house can mean somebody who's very domineering, very aggressive, very controlling, and somebody who really, really wants you to flatter them, somebody who likes to be spoiled and have their ego stroked. So if you're somebody who enjoys doing that in your partnerships, then this could really work out for you. If you're somebody who is not about words of affirmation, or you don't really like to do things like that, then you could really struggle, because the more you're not like that, the more that your partner feels like compliments or happiness or showing each other off is lacking in your relationship, the unhappier they're going to be, and the more difficulty it's going to be in the marriage and relationship. But if you're somebody who is very generous with their words and compliments and likes to show off your partner, then you might make your partner very happy, and in return, your marriage would be really happy as well. But overall, you can say that this marriage or this individual that you are going to spend your life with or spend a long chunk of your time with in this life is going to be somebody who helps you be independent as well and see value in yourself, whether they do that in a positive way, meaning that they really quite literally uplift you and tell you beautiful things about you, or help you socializing, bring opportunities to you and helps you shine, or they do that in a negative way where they're so self-focused on themselves that you somehow are forced to put yourself first, or you're forced to do things for yourself so you can shine as well. So that kind of mix and blend can be present as well. But again, you'd have to look at the sign and aspects and the overall Navamsa as well. And the Dharkaraka is extremely important to look at, especially in the Navamsa chart. With that being said, I'm going to wrap here with the Sun in the 7th house of the Navamsa chart video. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you a different kind of perspective. I hope it added value and was helpful to you in some way. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm really excited to continue this series. I'm really excited to get into synastry very soon as well. I hope you are keeping well. I hope you're keeping safe, and until next time.